In most cases, they are not. In most cases, most of the new products, especially with the new technology, where the adoption process or there are a lot of changes a customer has to undergo before he can use a new product. If it is too huge, even if the benefits are there, people will eventually take the new product, but it will take a long time. People need to be convinced, and we will talk about that as we go along. But fundamentally, what I'm trying to say here is the economic benefits that we expect people to look at doesn't happen very automatically. It's a psychological cost that you need to address first. People are going to ask you all these questions saying that what if I run out of power? Where do I charge? What if I have to travel at a faster speed? It doesn't do that. So you need to be ready to answer those questions. Yes, ma'am.
But does that mean that these are not genuine problems? These can be genuine.
They are genuine problems. There's no doubt about it. I mean, these are genuine problems.
So does that mean that entrepreneur needs to have solution beforehand?
You should. That's precisely what I'm trying to say. Rather than rushing to the market and then realizing that, oh, these customers are asking these questions. By the time we would have, again, what you need to do is, whether you like it or not, you have to go back to your drawing board. Because people are not obviously going to take it, because if you're not able to address these things in some way, I mean, I don't know how you're going to do it. Maybe you need to have a strategy on how you convince people. Or you need to really highlight the benefits in some way so that the costs get covered. But there's always this particular notion, where the whole benefits are underweight and the costs are overweighted. This is the normal. This is what the prospect theory talks about. I'll just quickly come to that. Yeah, Vanita. Yeah.
On the point which you were trying to address, from a marketer's perspective, I just strike me. Usually, when an entrepreneur launches a product, he just thinks the whole market is open to him. But if you look at the way any large company will go around strategizing before they launch a product, is they will be very, they will try to position it in a very niche area. So electric scooter is a very viable product, where probably you have to look at which segment, who's my target for this particular product. It can't be the whole market. But the moment you zero in onto a target consumer for you, then you can price little premium, because now you might have a very limited number of consumers to cater to. So you can always make little bit more money, but have a very specific positioning. So it's not that everybody will buy an electric scooter, but people might buy, like, even I think intercity, when you could travel in a smaller cities, probably more people will buy. Or maybe a product, it could be a fancy product positioned for young teenagers or somebody like that. So you can have it for school going children or teenagers who are going to school instead of cycles, show it as an alternative. So these ideas you will have to work in terms of positioning, and once your positioning is very clear, the product can click. So it can work probably that.
It's a very good point that you brought about. In fact, we will do an exercise after this particular talk, just to sort of figure out, if I have a new product which is going to be new to the market, right? I mean, which segment should I really target initially? I mean, like I said again, if you go through that typical S curve, I mean, that bell-shaped curve of diffusion of innovation, maybe, I mean, we need to really look at the believers, the people who are strong believers of environmental being degraded and so on. And then maybe these are the people who will probably believe in your product, and you need to get these believers on board first. And once these people come on board, then the process of diffusion starts off. Then maybe the other people will catch on, and then they will start using the product. So the segmentation, I mean, initially, which segment should we target becomes an issue. And that's the reason why we need to understand these consumers. Who are these consumers who are likely to be the first, people to really take on this particular product? Yes, Vanita.
Adoption cost. 1994 internet banking was introduced. 1997 it was started commercializing. But if you'll think practically, people adopted banking online by year 2000. And now there is a competition among all banks nowadays that every bank wants every customer to do banking online.
True.
So that's 1996, 1994, then to 1997, then 2000, where they have got a hope of, now people are accepting this technical change. They don't want to come to branch. They are not even bothered where the physical location is there. But then now they have come up with final adoption. Still we cannot say, only out of say internet users, there are 15% of those internet users have gone for banking online.
Right.
So that is what the adoption cost the new innovation has to consider, which sometimes entrepreneurs do not calculate.
I know. Yeah, for us.
I also just want to know when you're talking about we're talking about a new product which is new to the market, like an electric scooter. What about the second, third electric scooter company? And the first electric scooter company has to market the concept itself. But the third or the fourth, what is the charge for them, and what about services which are very identical?
In fact, there are two schools of thought. One, people say that you have a first mover advantage if you are able to make that product work. But then there are also people say that there are advantages of being a second mover into the market, because you don't need to really market the concept. People already understand. But then there's always a debate about that. I mean, there are some companies which believe that let the product be launched by somebody else. Let them go through the problem of launching it and getting the concept accepted, and then we will go on to the market. But then there are some people who believe that we should be the first in the market, because there are several advantages. People talk about being a first mover, right? It's a question of how you choose to what your strategy is going to be. But yes, to answer your question, maybe the second or the third player will find it a little more easier. Again, I'll tell you, it's not going to be easy, because to dislodge an incumbent is not going to be that easy, because already there's a certain fairly good brand established in the market. The dealers are tied up, so all this first mover advantage that we are talking about will always be there. And I'll just quickly run through the theory, so that we can go into the exercise part, because there's a lot that I need to discuss. But I'm glad that you're thinking on the lines that I'm thinking about. Generally, when you're launching a new product which has got features which require a lot of changes in the behavior of the consumers, be ready for a long haul. In the sense, you need to have deep pockets to really do that. Don't expect that overnight people will start taking your product. That means you need to wait, you need to have the patience, you need to have the deep pockets, and some investors who are willing to back you up for maybe, I don't know how many number of years before people start accepting your product. Like you talked about internet banking, for instance. Even today, I don't know how much, at least, there's a general acceptability of that product. But initially, when the service was launched, I don't think anybody was there to really take it, because number one, people couldn't understand the technology. So they thought, probably it's too difficult for us to adapt ourselves. See, this is where the adoption process becomes very difficult. So people look at the flip side and say, oh, it's not, I can't take so much of pain for this. I would rather, and the benefits for doing that is what? Nothing. So why should I change?
Like in technical part also, we say installation and implementation are far different.
Right.
It's like I have installed an application, but how long people will take?
I know. See, the problem with most of the new products are the costs are evident in the beginning itself, but the benefits, I don't know what's going to happen. A lot of times, people say, okay, great. If the benefits are there, you're going to say, okay, buy an electric scooter. I can show you that, maybe, initially the costs are very high, but wait for another 5 years and you look at how much your gas charges are, your fuel charges are, and so many other things. And you are trying to tell them saying that, look at the benefits. 5 years down the line, you suddenly feel that you've taken a good decision. But who's going to wait for 5 years? People are going to say, right now I look at what is evident for me are the costs. The benefits are going to come sometime later. People say, for that, I don't want to be the guinea pig for this. Let somebody else be one for that.
One more example, along with this battery charger scooters and all, I do have one of my relative have a battery charger scooter. He could not run it for more than 10 kilometers. Another thing is when the CNG auto rickshaws were, have occurred, if we ask them how much you'll charge, they charge is equal as what petrol vehicle charge. Then we asked, what is the use of traveling in CNG?
I know.
They said we do not get fuel stations easily, so we have to be in queue for hours. So it's almost like customers are not getting benefit of innovations.
I know. See, I think you got the point now. What I was trying to say. Let's quickly run through. Yeah, Sanjay. Yeah.
After this, basically, it talks more about a new feature in the existing product or a new product innovation.
Right.
After this, would you be talking about maybe some existing product and service after this?
I'm not talking about the existing ones, because generally, as an entrepreneur, what you're trying to do is you're trying to launch a new product, right? Or you're coming first into the market. So I'm only focusing on that particular aspect rather than already an incumbent product. I assume that, say for instance, you launched a few products in the market. You thought, it's a new product, and for you it's new, and maybe for the world also it's new. And I'm looking at, people getting into the market for the first time with a new product, and I want entrepreneurs to appreciate the fact that it is not such a simple game of just walking into the market and people accepting it. It's not going to happen so easily, unless, we'll talk about something called a 10x effect, where the benefits are so evident. In fact, you don't even have to talk about it. People will just flock to your particular office or to your showroom to buy that, because the benefits outweigh the cost so much. Maybe I think there are some products which are taken, consumers take as a fish to water. The minute they see that, aha, this is a product that I've been waiting for. Now,
Sorry. See, when we work with students, typically the students look at products or services which are already existing and some change in that. So how is what you're doing, what you've done so far, how is it going to be important for me to go and deliver in my class?
Correct.
So for example, typically the thing is that organic restaurant, health food store. So there are stores, there are health food stores. So he's just going to be a hustle venture, yet another product.
absolutely,
Service.
absolutely.
So how am I going to take this to class is my question.
Right. I think there's a slide in the very last, but I'll answer the question now. These are typically what we call as the tinkering products. That means you tinkered a little bit with the existing, idea or a concept, and then you put it back into the market. And lots of times people believe that I'm going to make pots of money by doing this. Believe me, if the benefits are not very evident, the question that consumers will ask is, why should I switch to your product? If the benefits are not so evident, and I need to probably, even if I have to come, there's a cost involved. I don't know how your food is going to be. I don't know whether the quality is really a suspect or not. So people are obviously not going to be attracted quickly to that particular. I keep telling a lot of my students and also some of the entrepreneurs who would come, saying that if you're going to tinker with a small concept and believe that you're going to make pots of money, it's not going to happen very quickly. I think people need to be cautioned against this. In fact, if they make financial projections which are so rosy by using this particular concept, I would certainly say that you're going to be in for a very big disappointment. It's not going to happen unless you create the so-called 10x effect. That means if there's an incumbent product which offers an X benefit, it should be able to offer 10x at least. For you to really say that it's going to be a breakthrough product or something called a home run that we are talking about, right? So this is something that we need to always caution students, saying that when you're tinkering with a product, don't really create very rosy projections of what your cash flows would be. I think that's something that we need to be cautioning the students in the first place. Let me quickly run through, the theory, and then I'll quickly talk about the strategies, and then we will have the exercise. Aarti, what's the time? When do we? 11:45, and then we take a break, and then they would do the exercise and come back. So I got about half an hour's time, right? Okay. Doesn't seem to work. Then, if you map that on to the psychological, axis, you will find that that same, 100 rupees would appear as something like 500 rupees. Notional. Look at what I'm trying to say. How people exaggerate. That's the reason why this curve is a little steep on the third quadrant and a little flat on the first quadrant. Right. The third quadrant, you find that it's so steep that even a small objective loss will look as if it's a huge psychological loss for people. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say, and yes.
The value here means the monetary value or the psychological?
Psychological value, yes, psychological. You tend to put that kind of a psychological gain or something like that. On the horizontal axis, it's typically the money value. You can actually, you're actually incurring that cost or, saving that kind of money or whatever, right? So
it's not just based on the individual customer's request. Say a pizza delivery boy can't run a battery scooter now. That will be. The purpose is different, right? He needs to deliver it within 15 minutes, the time schedule. He keeps frequently going and coming back.
He's not the customer of the...
No, but anyway, the company, or let us assume he personally wants and then delivers.
Then, like any other consumer, he would look at it like any other consumer.
In that case, It would be a real loss to him.
If it doesn't go, yeah, maybe. I mean, you know, not only real loss,
Because only-
even that loss is exaggerated. That's what I'm trying to say. Whatever the loss that you normally look at, I'll tell you, I mean, quickly, I mean, I'll explain this concept so that you can relate that to the concept. I mean, what I'm essentially trying to say in this particular curve is it's very interesting that what we think is a small loss that a customer has to undergo just to gain that extra benefit is not looked at by the customer the same way. In fact, even if you are incurring 100, in the minds of the customer, they feel that they are losing almost equivalent to about 500 or even more.